All right, you got it. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Carmel Town Hall. I am Matt Slater, State Assemblyman from the 94th Assembly District, joined with a number of county, local, and state officials. I want to thank my colleague, Assemblyman A.J. Bepan, who borders us to the north, for coming back down to Putnam County. I want to thank Carmel Supervisor Mike Kazari for hosting us today. We also have with us Jackie Anabi, Supervisor from the town of Putnam Valley, joined by Sean Keeler, the Highway Superintendent. We also have Supervisor-elect from the town of Southeast, Nick Durante. We also have our County Legislator, Erin Lee Crowley, and Councilman Sergio Esposito from the town of Yorktown. Representing the Mahopac Chamber of Commerce is Christine Picone. Thank you very much for being here. We're also joined by Dane Pascacello, Chief of Staff for State Senator Rob Rolison, who wishes he could be here and sends his best. And we also want to thank Steve Brucey for being here from the town of Patterson. And Steve's going to be speaking in a few minutes about what we're talking about here today. I think we all know that Albany needs reforms. It needs reforms from the top down. We are facing an affordability crisis. We continue to see crime, especially in our cities. We are among the highest taxed states in America. We are just recently ranked the least free state in America, and we also have one of the worst economic outlooks in America. And so when we look at ways that we want to reform Albany, one of the things that the Assemblyman and I have identified is a Public Service Commission. Recently, the Public Service Commission has approved a 30% rate hike over the next 3 years for NYSEG electric customers. That's my entire district, or just about my entire district. We do have a little piece of Con Ed, but vast majority of my district. The issue that we have is the process that the Public Service Commission undertook when examining the rate case that was put forward by NYSEG. And one of the things that we found is the lack of transparency, and I'll explain why. In July of 2022, I signed a letter with then Assemblyman Kevin Byrne, who is now the Putnam County Executive, requesting that the Public Service Commission hold a public hearing here in the Hudson Valley. So this way we can make sure our residents, our businesses, our elected officials have an opportunity to voice their opinion about the proposed rate case that they were examining. When you look at the schedule of events that occurred during the rate case, they not only denied our request to bring one here to the lower Hudson Valley, but the only in-person public hearing that was scheduled and held was in Albany. The rest of it was all on teleconference. And while I recognize and appreciate the convenience that teleconferencing has provided us, especially since COVID, but you do lose a very, I think, important piece of the conversation, especially for our seniors and individuals who may not have the technology available to participate in these conversations. And so Assemblyman Bepan and I recognized, and we've heard from our constituents and recognized this flaw in the process that was put forward. And so we have introduced legislation in the State Assembly. That legislation would require in-person public hearings in the territory that is being considered for a rate case or a rate hike. This is pro-consumer, this is government transparency, and this is an important step forward so that we can reform Albany, make it more accountable to taxpayers, more accountable to ratepayers, and finally make it more accountable to New Yorkers from every corner. And so I really want to thank Assemblyman Bepan for being here. I really want to thank him for his leadership on this issue, and I want to turn it over to my colleague from our North State Assemblyman, A.J. Bepan. A.J., thank you so much for being here.
I truly appreciate the partnership I have with Assemblyman Slater. We have tackled a number of issues together, but most pressing in my district is everything regarding the Public Service Commission and our public utilities. So my district encompasses much of southern Dutchess County, which shares service areas for Central Hudson and NYSEG. As we all know, Central Hudson has had their fair share of issues impacting our residents. And over the years, and I mean years, we have worked with Central Hudson to ensure that our residents are heard. We have held office hours. We have been liaisons to the community just to get their voices in front of these companies, in front of these utility companies. But that said, every year, year after the year, they go before the Public Service Commission asking for more money, they want more resources, but yet they are still not publicly accountable to our residents. They don't answer their calls. They're not accessible in a way that they should be, that I believe that they should be. And now whenever they go before the Public Service Commission asking for more funds and more resources, it's almost like a blank check. It's never a true fight for the residents and the ratepayers of our communities. So we have seen somewhat successes of this program, of this exact model in the northern parts of my district when Central Hudson had to have in-person meetings for their last rate case. But that was a special circumstance. Not every single resident is afforded that opportunity, which is why we recognize those successes, and Assemblyman Slater and I have decided to put a bill forward giving every resident, not only in our districts, but across the state of New York, that same level of accessibility, transparency, to their Public Service Commission, which they rightfully have the right to contact them. So going forward, we hope that we build sponsorship and support as a coalition across the state legislature, especially for those that have the same issues we're struggling with here in the Hudson Valley. Again, I thank Assemblyman Slater, Senator Rollison's office, and everyone involved with this legislation, and I truly hope we could find this to be a bipartisan approach to a more accountable and accessible government. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, AJ. Appreciate it. You know, this morning I had an email from a constituent who is now unemployed, trying to get unemployment benefits. And the constituent said to me, I was kind of struck by this, she wasn't worried about the holidays or providing for her family for the holiday season. The first thing she said she was most worried about was her NYSEG bill. And here we are with a 30% rate hike over the next 3 years, and the process is broken. The process is flawed. And so that's, again, one of the main reasons that we are here today. You know, we've got a lot of folks from the local government here of the 94th Assembly District, and both Assemblyman Bepan and I come from local government. The Assemblyman was a councilman in East Fishkill. I served as supervisor in the town of Yorktown. And a lot of our decision-making is born from public hearings. It's a basic function of local government. Right now, a lot of our partners are finalizing their budgets. There's a public hearing process to finalize budgets here in the Hudson Valley, but not with these rate hikes. And again, 30% being the most recent and extreme. And so I really want to applaud our local government officials for being here. They've been great partners. They've been great advocates. And I want to allow and invite Supervisor Kazari to come up and say a few words, if he would. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you very much again for everything you do for us, Assemblyman. So here in the town of Carmel, we have had meetings. NYSEG comes and allows the ratepayers to dispute their bill or come ask questions of them. When we've done that, the room is packed. It's standing room only. So they know that our seniors will come out and would have went to a meeting if it was hosted locally, and they would have complained because they're choosing between their medications, their rent, their mortgage. They don't have the money to be absorbing a 30% increase on fixed income. So I want to thank both of the Assemblyman and the Senator for your hard work and looking out for us, and hopefully this mandate does make it through to the governor's office and Hochul will sign it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We're going to bounce back and forth, but I want to see if Christine Picone from the Mahopac Chamber of Commerce, who's been a great advocate for the business community here locally, if she'd come up and say a few words.
Sure.
Thank you for being here, Christine.
Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Picone. I represent the Greater Mahopac Carmel Chamber of Commerce. I deal with our local businesses on a daily basis, and one of the biggest complaints from them is being short-staffed. And a lot of that comes from they're paying their utility bills and other bills, but mostly that versus having a staff. And we've encountered recently ourselves going into businesses and trying to have events there, and they cannot host us because they don't have the staff to do that. And you know, it's sad because they're mom and pop shops. We are a very local community. We stay local, we shop local, and we're just trying to keep them open and keep them in business to help, you know, all of our local people here, schools, government, everything. And it's becoming very difficult, and we've seen a lot of businesses close down, unfortunately, over the past 2 years. And, we have some new ones coming in. But again, a lot of them are short-staffed at times because they're paying these higher bills. So I also thank Matt very much for taking this on, and hopefully he'll be able to keep us open and keep our town, thriving, because that's what we're all about here. We are very community-based and very local. So thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. We also have Steve. Steve is a resident of Patterson who contacted my office about his personal experience with NYSEG. And when we told Steve that we were having this event today, he wanted to take time out of his busy schedule to provide his thoughts and share his experience. So Steve, if you wouldn't mind coming up and sharing your thoughts on this, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Thank you so much for giving us a voice, People
Happy to
that
do
are efficient to paying their bills, it's okay for us to pay the bill, but we don't get a voice. That's just wrong at many levels. And like you said, you know what? The seniors are available, but, have it during the day where someone that works can actually come here and have an opinion or a voice. And I can't help but think to myself, I'm a maintenance supervisor for a place called Cove Care Center. My CFO tells me to be efficient and effective. I do all the procurement for 110 people. She wants me to make sure that I take that dollar bill and I stretch it to make sure that I cover, as many things as possible. Well, with that being the case, I have to look at, first being able to access whatever we need at wherever I can find it for the best price. Well, with that comes a responsibility. Where's NYSEG's responsibility when it comes to the customer? It's okay to bring us up 30% without any explanations. That's just wrong at every level, Like, if it wasn't for this crew right here representing the common person, we would be eliminated at every level when it comes to having a voice with these conglomerates. So I think it's really important that we take a look at not only where, where is the electric coming from? Where do they produce the electric? How is the money spent? Just like, for a little while back, it was an introduction to hospitals being responsible to the people that spend time there by effectively listing the items on a bill, right? So that you know what you're paying for. I don't want to pay $11.19 for a Band-Aid. You know what I mean? What is NYSEG's responsibility in the money being spent? I mean, if you ride around, it's an awful lot of trucks sitting doing nothing. What am I paying for? So I think it's really important that, not only you, but everyone here, they just stop for a minute, they take a look and say to them, where is this going? Why do they need 30%? Who's benefiting from that 30%? And is there any way for us to correct the path of where they're going with this? And thank goodness you stepped up, because left to just the common everyday working person, we wouldn't have a voice. We wouldn't have a voice. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Really appreciate
okay,
being
thank
here.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, Steve brought up a great point, something that Assemblyman Bepan and I, and Senator Rolison is too, that we've continued to try to shed light on, and that's the CLCPA requirements. And if you actually tune into the public hearing, or excuse me, the Public Service Commission's last meeting when they approved the rate hike, one of the commissioners predicted a double-digit increase over the next decade. And a lot of that, most of that, is all related to the CLCPA requirements, which most residents don't even know that that's underway. And so that's a major concern that our conference, the Republican conference in the Assembly, and Senator Rolison, we've been asking for a cost-benefit analysis. We've been asking for just cost estimates that the utility companies are going to have to impose on the ratepayers to be in compliance with the CLCPA. We've never seen any numbers whatsoever when it comes to the CLCPA requirements from a cost perspective. And it's important for residents to know all those costs get passed down to the ratepayer. And so when Albany talks about unfunded mandates, the CLCPA is a massive unfunded mandate, which we have no idea what the costs are going to be. And my fear is it's going to be too little too late until we wake up and realize that we've gone from number 8 or 9 in the country for most expensive utility, most expensive electric, to number 1 in the country. And we want to be number 1 in a lot of things, but we don't want to be number one in that. And I think it's important that we're more transparent in that process as well, and we've been very vocal as a conference in that regard. We do have Putnam Valley Town Supervisor Jackie Anabi and Putnam Valley Highway Superintendent Sean Keeler. Would you like to say a few words, either of you?
Just real quick.
Yeah, please.
We want to thank you guys for being our voice. And to piggyback on what Steve said, you're not just a voice for your constituents, you're a voice for the town, because our hands are tied. We can do a certain amount, but it comes to our state senator and our state assembly to actually step up when we make that issue. The residents are reaching out to Sean and myself about, how am I going to pay these bills?
Right.
We don't have an answer.
Right.
So, we do thank you for stepping up to the plate, because it's a task, and you're taking the bull by the horns, and we do appreciate you. So thank you very, very much for what you do.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Sean, you
Stay
good?
nice.
All right. And we do have Nick Durante, Supervisor-elect from the town of Southeast. Anything on your end, Nick? That's okay. You're all right? All right. Well, thanks for being here. And we have Councilman Sergio Esposito representing the town of Yorktown. Councilman Esposito, why don't you come up and say a few words? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for doing this. Once again, you are making strides up there, and we're so happy that you do represent us at the state level. But 30%, really? On top of the other increases that we've had already, coming out of COVID, with inflation through the roof, this is how our government responds. Transparency in government, it's a requirement. It's not optional. And to be able to just come in and willy-nilly raise our rates 30% in Yorktown, our seniors are devastated. I get many of the concerns from our seniors. How are they going to pay for this? They're on fixed incomes. And to be able to do something like this without even ever hearing from the public, except through our checkbook, that's the only thing we get. We get a bill. We get a bill in the mail. We don't get asked our opinion. We just like, here's your rate increase. At this point, I don't know where we're going to go. At this point, it's probably going to be more expensive to charge your vehicle than to gas up. Leave it to government to come out and give you all of these requirements and say electric vehicles are the way to go. It's better for the environment. It's better for this. It's going to be cheaper for you in the long run, and then raise your electrical rates on how you charge your vehicles. It's absolutely ridiculous. In Yorktown several years ago, we had a meeting with NYSEG, and they came in, and I believe Con Ed was there, the supervisor. And I called you Mr. Supervisor. Bad habit. Good habit, but we miss you. So, it was an in-person meeting, and I got to be honest, we beat them up. We beat them up pretty badly. We beat them up so badly that the next day, trucks rolled out because we were sick of the outages. We were sick of the increases, and we were sick of the outages. And as the increases went up, it didn't seem like the outages went down. And so what they did is they responded. They held off their rate increase, and what ended up happening is they cleaned up, they cleaned up trees that could be possible. They did the work that they needed to do. But that was only possible because it was in person. And that's my point today. And I think this bill that you guys are introducing is necessary, because teleconferencing, all you do is you get on there and they see your picture, and everybody's probably on mute and they're not even paying attention to you. The only way to get it done is to have in-person meetings, and that should be a requirement. You're going to raise my rates 30%? I want to know about it. I want to be able to voice my opinion about it. I want to be able to stand up for my constituents about it. And the only real way to do it is in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. And last but not least, representing the Putnam County and the Putnam County Legislature is Erin Lee Crowley, Putnam County Legislator from District 9.
Thank you, Assemblyman. So I have a couple things to echo on. Number one, it shouldn't take a constituent calling their state or local representative to get a bill discrepancy changed. Let them govern in Albany and do what they need to do. That's absolutely absurd. It's a waste of time and money. And we're thankful that you and your colleagues do take the time to step up and represent the constituents that have elected you. Number two, I think dealing with constituents myself and NYSEG, I have found some flaws that, they have left constituents to make decisions like you brought up about what are they going to pay. And then they put them on a payment plan. And if they default on that payment plan more than 3 times, their power gets shut off and they're not allowed to get their power turned back on again. And unfortunately, in this district, like in many others, there's only one one place where you can go to get power. So then what do you do? And if you make too much money, you can't get help from the county or from the state. So you're left there with no power until you figure out how to pay. And that's a real problem for me. So I think this is fantastic. I'm glad that we're working with partners on all different levels. I commend both you and AJ for all you're doing, and thank you so much, and your constituents of, you know, the Assembly District, the 94th Assembly District really, really appreciate you, and yours as well, AJ. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dane, last chance? You good? Okay. Well, I do want to thank Dane, Dane Pasquicello from Senator Rolliston's office. And I'll just end again on the focus really needs to be about this affordability crisis that we're facing. I think every one of us hears it every single day from our constituents. The cost to live here in the Hudson Valley is through the roof. The cost to survive here in New York State is through the roof. And while these decisions get made, they need to be made in a more transparent manner. And that's the whole point of the legislation that Assemblyman Bepan and I put in. Do you want to have any closing remarks?
You know, they call this whole process a negotiation between the utility companies and the residents. Give the residents the opportunity to fight in that negotiation, the same opportunity that you give the public utility companies. Thank
Absolutely.
you again for your
Absolutely.
efforts here.
Thank you, AJ.